Smartphone photography has absolutely exploded in popularity in the last 5 years. And scrolling through social media, it really seems like everybody is a photographer because smartphones have gotten that good. Some people are even filming full-length cinematic masterpieces on their phones where less than a decade ago we were taking photos that look like this. At the start of this year, my partner and I, we travelled to New Zealand for a birthday. We visited the city, we visited museums, we ate ramen, and we even went to a place called Weta Workshop, a set design, movie props, special effects company based in New Zealand. And that's where I took this photo. I want to try and recreate this photo, comparing the results between a professional Sony a7 Mark IV and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So let's not screw around. Let's get straight into it. There we go. So the spot I'm going to be recreating this shoot in is actually right here in front of this big old window here. I'm hopefully going to be able to set up a light somewhere here or here and just try and figure out how to recreate the shot that I took when I was in New Zealand. So I think we should start by cleaning and then try and figure everything else out once we're done. Alright, so in the photo I'm trying to recreate, we can see we have a heavily used cutting mat as the background. We also have a pair of used and old manky pliers, which helps add a little bit of texture there. We also have some rings and chains kind of laying around. We have maybe a little bit of leather stuff. So trying to recreate this one for one is going to be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to try and do my best to just make it as close as possible. Where I took this was, again, Weta Workshop, a place that does movie props and special effects and stuff like that. So they had all of these things available, whereas I'm working with what I have lying around. So we might have to wait until later on tonight in order to be able to actually take these photos. So let's try and set up the scene as best as we can now and go from there. I don't have anything that's going to simulate some leather. The scaling's going to be a little bit off, but I've got a box full of chains that has some stuff in it. I've got my little toolkit here which might help add some kind of texture in. I've got an old pair of pliers that, while the wrong ones, it could help. A leather book for leather book reasons. Some zip ties. A not really to scale cutting mat. It's not quite as heavily used as I would like, but it's gonna do the job, I hope. I guess we're gonna see how it goes with the watch. Put this over here, put this over here, that down there. Okay, so that's gonna be the main thing. Put the watch sitting here. If I chuck pliers in, this is where things are really gonna start looking cool. Not that. Maybe that. This one has big loops too. I bet I can find those pliers. They're flush cutters. I bet I can find them. Let's turn this on. Wire strippers could be a cool idea. Clamps. Clamps. More clamps. A multi-kit. Definitely want to take this ball peen hammer as well. I like that heaps. It's going to be time to break some of these. This is what I've got so far. If we're to come up to here and ignoring the shadow, this is what it's going to look like roughly. I don't know if I'm digging it compared to the original, but apart from cutting more gouges in and making this look a lot more worn, I think we're doing a pretty good job. This was illuminated with a single light source, which I won't be using any of these lights in here, and I won't be using the big window just here. I'm going to be using a NAND light, which is probably going to sit somewhere here, coming down at that angle, and yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. So I've done a little bit of change to this setup here. I was looking at the reference image and it wasn't looking quite right, and so I swapped the cutting mat. Instead of sitting widthways, it's now sitting lengthways, and it looks way better. Of course, I'd love to have a mat that sat the whole way around, but this looks way more accurate to what I remember. So much better. The only thing to do now is either try and find a way to block off this window or wait until later tonight, which I think I'm probably going to wait until later tonight. So it's only going to be a second for you, but for me it's going to be a couple of hours. But let's see if we can get this right. It's roughly 7 o'clock and I just realized you can't actually see me. You're going to have to trust I'm not doing something weird. There I am. Cool. It's dark enough now that we can actually start shooting some stuff. I'm going to be doing an A/B comparison between the Sony a7 Mark IV as well as my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I'll show you the results at the end and you can let me know down below which one you kind of prefer. In the original photo, hi Brandon, you're in my new video. The light was a warm, like orange. Warm like orange? It was a warm orange. And if I come to here, we go get off battery. Actually, I might even just be able to go back to CCT. I think I might be able to increase the color temperature a bit more. No, only 27K. Ooh, yeah, okay. That might be enough. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that looks awesome. I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out, but I think what's really going to come alive is when we start the editing process. Let's take some photos. Oh, that's dope. Yo, that is awesome. Oh, I got it. Heck yeah. Come on, Sony's. I was going to call it Sony. Come on, Sony's autofocus. Oh, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm done shooting here. Let's chuck these photos into Lightroom and see how we did. So I'm actually in a little bit of a different place at the moment. I kind of didn't want to be at home, so I decided to come to a place like this. And this is where we're going to edit the photo. This is the photo of the watch taken on the Sony. Let's straighten it if things aren't straight. I'll come over to my presets here. Use my Adventure Society 2 preset Arty. And let's increase the exposure. Let's bring the color temp down a little bit, something like that. Let's see where the highlights are. So let's remove pinks there, more to the green. See if we can do anything with the tone curve. See if anything here happens that starts to spark my curiosity. Maybe exposure a little bit, the mid-tones a little bit. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine there. Now vibrance, honestly I don't think it needs it, but let's bring that up to about 26. And here's a cool trick that I've learned when I've been doing my product photography stuff. You want to open up masks, you then want to add a brush. I'm going to increase the size of the brush and we're going to go over the object. You can do the same thing with object selection, but I find that being able to manually use the brush, I'm just in more control. That's what I'm trying to say. Now it doesn't have to be super perfect because we're not actually going to be using any of the exposure settings or anything like that. We're going to be coming down into effects, increasing texture, increasing sharpness by a little bit, maybe dropping a little bit of clarity. only a smidge, a little bit of dehaze, and then duplicate and invert. So then from there, with all those settings reset, drop clarity a little bit, maybe drop the exposure just a touch, remove a smidgen of contrast. So that is the first image done. Now this one was taken on the A7 Mark IV with the Tamron 17 to 28mm f2.8 lens. Now if we copy these settings and jump over to one that's taken on the iPhone, there's a big difference. If we side by side these, drop the exposure by 2 stops, do the same thing with the brush, and look at that. Seriously, like, these are incredibly close to one another. I sincerely think that, yeah, you could probably get away with this, to be honest. Sure, like, the focal lengths are a little bit different, but honestly, like, these are pretty indistinguishable. Now, if you're gonna pixel peep, of course, you're gonna notice the difference, but if you're posting on social media, seriously, like, there's almost no difference. While this does its thing, I want to take a moment to tell you about my new Gumroad store. I'm now selling Lightroom presets. I also have a bunch of free presets available on there as well, including some of the presets used here. If you want to get the same look, well, check it out, just down below. Well, that's these photos edited. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you think about how the shoot went and the results that we actually got, and maybe whether you can tell the difference between the iPhone and the 15 Pro Max. Let's 100% discuss it down below. But just because we're done here does not mean that the adventure is over just yet. Click here to see my last chaotic photography adventure, and consider subscribing by clicking on my face. It was awesome hanging out with you, and I'd love to do it again.